All right, we're going to start in about 45 seconds.
Where's everybody?
So we're about to do a roll call and find out.
Christmas vacationing already.
I'm going to call to order the governing board meeting of the St. Johns River Water Management District. Today is December 10th, 2024, and it is 10 a.m. If we could rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're going to do a roll call. My name is Rob Bradley. I'm the chair of the board. Miriam Galby White. Cole Oliver.
Here, sir.
Chris Peterson.
Here, sir.
Ryan Atwood.
Here.
Doug Bornick.
Here.
Doug Burnett.
Here.
Ron House.
Here, sir.
Janet Price.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Okay, we're going to start like we always do with a recognition of our wonderful employees. Robin is here today to guide us. You're recognized. Good morning.
Now is it on? Very good. Okay, thank you. Good morning, Robin Hudson, Human Resources Director. And although she could not join us today, we would like to congratulate Courtney Shattuck, the December Employee of the Month. Courtney is an environmental scientist working in the Bureau of Water Supply Planning. She is recognized for demonstrating the district's core values to develop partnerships and achieve results. Courtney is a highly valued member of the Minimum Flows and Levels teams. She plays a key role in integrating a diverse range of ecological, environmental, and scientific data to set and assess MFLs. Courtney's experience in ecology, field assessments, statistical analysis, and GIS have proven invaluable in this complex and multidisciplinary process. Thank you, Courtney, and congratulations. A 5-year service award for Isaac Crenshaw, Hydrologist 3, in the Bureau of Water Use Regulation. A 5-year service award for Shane Howell, Senior Project Manager in the Bureau of Basin Management and Project Development. A 5-year service awards for Alyssa Mullins, Data Collection System Specialist in the Bureau of Water Resource Information. A 15-year service award for Tammy Bader, Technical Program Manager in the Bureau of Water Supply Planning. Tammy and her team develop the data sets that serve as the backbone of the district's water supply plans, groundwater modeling efforts, and MFL assessments. Her work is essential to our ability to conduct evaluations of natural systems and guides the development of the projects needed to provide sufficient water supplies while protecting our surface and groundwater resources. It is not a stretch to say that the CFWI regional water supply plans were completed because of Tammy's engagement with agency partners and the stakeholder community. She served as the lead on the CFWI technical writing team to develop both the 2020 CFWI Regional Water Supply Plan and the draft 2025 Regional Water Supply Plan. She has been pivotal to the development and approval of the Central Springs, East Coast, and North Florida Regional Water Supply Plans. Tammy, thank you for 15 years of dedicated service to the district. A 25-year service award for Shalonda Colson, Systems Administrator in the Office of Information Technology. Shalonda has dedicated herself to serving our district, evolving from a key member of the service desk team to her current role as Systems Administrator in IT infrastructure. Her commitment to getting the job done right and attention to detail have been constant throughout her career. As a reliable team member, Shalonda excels at executing assigned projects and takes pride in delivering quality results. Her dedication to the district's mission and a quarter century of consistent service have made her an important part of our organization's success. Thank you, Shalonda, and thank you for 25 years of service to the district. A 25-year service award for Deirdre Ehrman, Water Conservation Coordinator in the Bureau of Water Supply Planning. For many years, Deirdre has been the face of our water conservation efforts. In the early days, she organized the Florida Water Star program. Currently, Florida Water Star has certified over 10,000 homes and commercial properties. Deirdre has expanded her work with utilities and local governments while reviewing CUP conservation plans and permits and providing outreach to utilities, local governments, homeowners associations, and professional organizations. She has been an integral contributor to how we communicate and message water conservation. She is recognized as one of Florida's most effective water conservation advocates. Deirdre recently received national recognition from the Alliance for Water Efficiency Water Star Award for her work and leadership. Congratulations and thank you for 25 years of dedicated service to the district. A 25-year service award for Joe Stewart, Engineer Scientist in the Bureau of Watershed Management and Modeling. Joe is a registered professional engineer and a Florida master naturalist. He is responsible for developing and evaluating models to support the district's water supply, water quality, and flood protection initiatives. Joe was a key contributor to the St. Johns River Water Supply Impact Study, where he conducted critical assessments of the effects of surface water withdrawals on river salinity and saltwater intrusion. Joe is also currently leading the development of the Middle and Lower St. Johns River Hydrodynamic Flood Model. This model will provide advanced capabilities for forecasting flood conditions along the river's main stem and enable the evaluation of compound flooding impacts resulting from extreme rainfall and storm surge events. In addition, Joe serves as the lead engineer for the development of the Middle and Lower St. Johns River Water Quality Model, a cutting-edge tool that has significantly enhanced the district's ability to evaluate project options. Thank you, Joe, and congratulations on 25 years of service to the district. A 30-year service award for Brad Steele, Invasive Plant Technician in the Bureau of Land Resources. Brad is a part of a diverse team of applicators charged with managing and maintaining our wetlands and related resources. When Brad is not actively controlling invasive aquatic vegetation by airboat, he can be found assisting in the management of district lands by participating in prescribed burning or suppressing wildfires. He also performs oversight for both aerial application services and ground contractor monitoring. Brad received a Meritorious Service Award for his efforts on the 2023 Lake Apopka Hydrilla Treatment Project. He has been a nominee for the Florida Aquatic Plant Managers Society Applicator of the Year Award. He has also been involved in several district personnel and civilian rescues, one of which was a wayward parachutist lost in the Sebastian Buffer Preserve. Brad, thank you for 30 years of service to the district.
Brad may have the coolest job in state government. Congratulations to you all. Merry Christmas. Thank you for all that you've done for us and continue to do for us. All right, item 2 is our hydrologic conditions report. Tim Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Bradley and members of the Governing Board. I'm Tim Miller, Bureau Chief of the Bureau of Water Resource Information, presenting the December Hydrologic Conditions Report, representing data from the month of November. Rainfall in November was below the district-wide monthly average by 1.23 inches. All 18 counties were below normal for the month, with no county receiving more than 2 inches of rain, and 12 counties receiving less than an inch of rain. Countywide rainfall totals range from a high of 1.83 inches for Indian River County to a low of 0.37 inches for Marion County. Looking at rainfall over the past 12 months, the district-wide annual rainfall total is just over 6.5 inches above the annual average of 51.01 inches. Northern and central counties have been the primary recipients through the year, with 6 counties having received more than 60 inches in total annual rainfall. 14 counties are above normal, and 4 of those have received more than 10 inches of rain above their annual averages. 4 southern counties are now below their 12-month averages, and this includes Brevard, Osceola, Indian River, and Okeechobee counties. Countywide totals range from the lowest value of 47.28 inches for Okeechobee County to the highest value of 67.09 inches for Nassau County. Surface flows across the district at the start of November were primarily in the high or very high range. Currently, flows are varied as most areas saw a decrease through the month with low rainfall and a recession towards base flows. A few locations are now in the low range, while the St. Johns River in the upper basin area is at normal flow. The Ocklawaha, St. Johns River near DeLand, and Econ River locations remain in the very high or high range of flow for this time of year. In the next series of slides, we'll review the status of water levels at selected long-term lake sites. All sites saw a decrease in water levels. At Lake Brooklyn, water level decreased 1/10 of a foot and continues to be above average. Lake Weir had a decrease of 0.3 of a foot and is just below the average water level. Although water level at Lake Winnemaset at the start of the month was above the maximum recorded level for November, overall it had a decrease of 0.5 foot through the month. Lake Apopka's level had a decrease of 0.2 of a foot and is now just below the regulation schedule. And water level in Blue Cypress Lake also decreased 0.2 of a foot, remaining above the average water level, but just below regulation schedule at the end of the month. Conditions in the upper Floridan aquifer continue to be healthy overall. Despite decreases that have expanded the area in the normal range, the majority of the district remains in the high range, and changes in the aquifer remain on trend with recent hydrologic conditions. Next, we look at the district-wide index value for aquifer conditions. And the upper Floridan aquifer well index value at the end of November was 88, remaining in the high range. Again, this indicates the healthy status of the aquifer, which is a benefit ahead of and during the drier winter and spring months, and it doesn't lessen the importance of encouraging continued water conservation practices. In the next series of slides, I review changes in flow at selected spring sites with long-term monitoring. The monthly mean for flow in Silver Springs increased 43 cubic feet per second from the previous monthly mean, and flow was in the high range. At Blue Spring, the monthly mean showed an increase of 11 CFS in November, and flow is just within the high range. At Rock Springs, flow had a slight increase from the previous monthly mean, and these provisional data indicate record flow was observed during the beginning of the month before dropping into the high range. A slight increase in flow was also observed in the overall monthly mean at Wekiwa Springs, and like the other sites, flow remains in the high range. And finally, in November, the well plugging program continued to be active, plugging 11 wells. This work provided an additional savings of 0.93 million gallons per day, which brings the total water saved by this program since November 2020 to 74.26 million gallons per day. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, you're recognized.
Sir, through the chair, are the other districts capping wells like we are? Are we sharing the wealth that maybe they need to take a look at this too?
In terms of their well plugging programs, I'm not too familiar with what the other districts are doing in that regard. I could find out some more information.
Just curious.
That, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Have you looked at the long-term trends like El Nino, La Nina, the influence for our winter coming up? We're going to see winter and spring.
So the trends typically with a La Nina year, which they have forecasted we're going towards that. Right now, we're in a neutral state. I think as of the last update from the Southeast River Forecasting Center, they had mentioned we'd be at about the high 50% to be going into a La Nina year. That was expected to happen into this month. And it doesn't look like we've totally moved there yet. So in that circumstance, we would receive less rainfall during that period and into the spring.
Thank you.
Great. At next month's meeting, if you could give us an update on what the other districts are doing with regards to well plugging, that would be greatly appreciated, and we can just put it at this part of the presentation at the end where there's the slide on our well plugging program.
Probably can do that.
All right. Thank you. All right, we're going to move to the consent agenda. That would be items 10 through 19 on the agenda that's posted to the public and provided to all the board members. Do any board members wish to pull any items for discussion? Seeing or hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Peterson, second from Ms. Price. Is there any further discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. All right, we're going to move to item 4. Ms. Wester. Hi, how are you? Good morning. You're recognized to discuss the construction of the Palatka Rehabilitation Project.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the governing board. My name is Ann Elise Wester. I'm a supervising professional engineer in the Bureau of District Projects and Construction. The item for your consideration today is to award the construction contract for the Palatka Rehabilitation Project. The district manages and operates 3 locks and dams within the Upper Ocklawaha River Basin. Significant investment is required to maintain and operate these structures. There has been no complete rehabilitation since the district took over operation in 1977. And while preventive maintenance and repairs have been made over the years, all of these locks and dams are now requiring constant maintenance and are included in the district's current 5-year work plan for rehabilitation. The Palatka Dam is located on Haynes Creek and is owned and operated by the district. It is used primarily for navigation along the Upper Ocklawaha River between Lake Eustis and Lake Griffin. It was constructed in 1957, and the last repair of the lock was undertaken in 2002 to replace the deteriorated sheet piling with new concrete walls. The project is required to ensure the continued functionality, efficiency, and safety of the lock. The project entails structural repairs and maintenance, such as repairing the concrete surfaces, repainting the lock inflow and outflow pipes, and repairing and painting the lock miter gates. It also involves procuring and installing new upstream and downstream slide gates, updating and rehabbing the electrical system, and replacing the gate controls in the control building. To improve efficiency and safety of the systems, the existing lock miter gates and the slide gate operation systems will be replaced with new hydraulic systems, and this is similar to what we have at the Moss Bluff lock. As you can see, this project requires an extensive variety of specialized work. In the last fiscal year, the district staff completed the design of the civil and the structural components, and we got Black & Veatch on board to assist in the design of the hydraulic, slide gate, and electrical system components. This project was initially advertised in March 2024, but only one response was received by Razorback LLC for $3.97 million, which was over our budget of $2.6. Non-respondents to this initial solicitation said that insufficient time to respond was the primary reason that they did not submit the bid. To address the issues that may have contributed to this lack of responses, we decided to extend the advertisement period to 66 days for that second call. We revised the bid specifications to add clarity to the hydraulic elements. We provided enhanced operational and control procedures for the lock, and we added additional detail for the electrical drawings. Additionally, with more complete information available after that first bid, we updated the 100% cost estimate to $3.1 million. To gain interest in bidding, the project was shared on the district's procurement project look ahead, and we reached out to prospective bidders directly. On August 30th, 2024, the project was advertised for a second time. A non-mandatory pre-bid meeting was held on September 17th, 2024. Representatives from 5 companies attended the meeting. We only received one response in the second call as well, and the primary reason that the other contractors gave was that they had sufficient backlog, allowing them to be very selective in choosing which projects to bid on. We also looked into the cost difference between our 100% cost estimate, the 3.1, and Razorback's bid. It was reported by the contractors that the work is multidisciplinary and involves specialized work, with the majority of that work being subcontracted. And as we know, subcontracted work is typically more expensive since it includes markup and project management costs associated with that prime contractor. And this brings me to the recommendation. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Wester. Does anybody have any questions? It looks like Dr. Wester, the team, did all they could do to make sure that we got the best price that we could in light of the circumstances, including this unique project that is not something that you can pull off the shelf, that's for sure. All right, any questions? Yes, Doug, you're recognized.
Yeah, this is out of left field, granted, but I was over in Spain, in the citrus area in the southern Spain, and we traveled by boat down some locks in there, and you do them by hand. And I would get out, being part of the crew, I'd get out and do we did it all. It was electric. We did it all by hand. It was very easy and efficient. They were like 100 some odd years old. These they were just basic, but I didn't know if you ever would consider, if you really wanted to save money, going to that. But they had them in there. I don't know if anybody else has traveled through Europe, but that's the first time I've traveled by boat and going through locks, and being a boater, I was impressed with how efficient and how easy it was to jump off and jump on and move your boat through a lock without any electricity. So I know that this probably doesn't fit into this at all, but the frugal side of my brain just had to throw that out.
That in the Netherlands?
No, in Spain.
Spain?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Curious to learn.
All right.
I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the award to Razorback LLC for $3,860,000, 3860180. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized.
Yeah, I'm great with this project. There's no dispute there. I think though the idea that we're struggling with finding contractors, and in my business it's similar, so I understand how difficult it is out there. But I talked to Mr. Register about this issue, and he came up with a good idea. I felt like that maybe there could be something done with some training for these contractors. Now they're busy people. And, for them to come in on a day to just learn how to submit a bid or to participate with the St. Johns River Water Management District, that may not be so feasible. But could we maybe put together a video with some of our staff, because I see some pretty talented people with that, as to like the process of maybe how to submit for contracted work with St. Johns River Water Management? Because I just wonder if there's some people out there that may be intimidated by the idea of working with St. Johns. Maybe, maybe not, but I don't see where we have anything to lose at this point.
Certainly nothing to lose. Competition is good. And yes, you're correct that there's a lot of work out there, a lot of government dollars flowing through the system, including this government's dollars. So, yes, please continue those discussions with Mr. Register and Ryan. If you think that we need to put an agenda item or further discussion of this on the agenda, let us know. Otherwise, please continue your discussions with Mr. Register so that we could see if that can bear some fruit. All right, thanks. Any other comments, discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Wester. Item number 5 involves a complicated swap exchanges regarding property in Flagler County. Christine Wenzel, you're recognized to go through this. I know we've all reviewed it in our packets and seen the fruits of staff's labor on this one. So you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Bradley and members of the Governing Board. I'm Christine Wenzel, one of your regulatory managers with the Division of Regulatory Services. I'm pleased to be here to present agenda item number 5, which is a regulatory conservation easement and exchange request for Plantation Bay. Plantation Bay is a single family and multifamily subdivision that's located to the east of US 1, west of Interstate 95, and south of Old Dixie Highway in Flagler County. In 2003, the district received a regulatory conservation easement under the conditions of an environmental resource permit associated with construction of a single family subdivision within Plantation Bay. The conservation easement preserved 289.9 acres, which included approximately 221.3 acres of wetlands and 68.6 acres of uplands. The proposed exchange preserves uplands and wetlands located immediately northwest of the existing subdivision. This graphic shows the location of 25 release areas scattered throughout the proposed future development area, and they range in size from 1/1000th of an acre to 17.11 acres. The 25 partial release areas total 26.41 acres and include 8.94 acres of wetlands and 17.47 acres of upland pine plantation. The partial release areas are in fair to good ecological condition. The reason for the partial release request is to allow for the redesign and construction of the future phases of Plantation Bay. The overall Plantation Bay development received a development of regional impact back in the early 90s. The extent of development authorized under the DRI was changed over the years to accommodate for changes in the federal and state regulations. Approval of the partial CE release would provide for development of wetlands and uplands, some of which were previously designated for development under that original DRI. Generally, the CE release areas include wetlands and uplands located along the fringe of the encumbered parcels, which will then remain under conservation easement. Substitute mitigation has been proposed for the potential functional loss associated with the requested conservation easement release areas. The substitute mitigation area has greater ecological value than the proposed partial release areas. This graphic shows the overall boundaries of the western portion of the Plantation Bay Master Development Area, which includes approximately 770 acres. The green areas indicate wetlands and uplands that will remain under conservation easement, while the gold areas indicate the location of the areas requested to be released from the conservation easement. The future site plan and layout is also indicated on this graphic. As you can see, the location of the partial release areas are scattered throughout that future development area. During review of this partial release request, our staff worked closely with the property owners and their team to ensure that the plan avoided higher quality wetlands and minimized fragmentation of the conservation easement areas to remain. The requester implemented several design modifications and reduced the extent of the release request by approximately 40%. In exchange for the release of 26.41 acres of wetlands and uplands, the requester proposes to preserve 24.01 acres of wetlands and 26.95 acres of adjacent uplands located immediately west of the project area and directly contiguous with areas that are currently under conservation easement. The exchange parcel offers mature hydric hammock wetlands and pine flatwoods uplands that are high quality native habitat for wildlife and are easily incorporated into the overall mitigation plan for Plantation Bay. The exchange parcel is part of a 129-acre tract shown on this graphic, the remainder of which is planned to be used as mitigation for future development associated with Plantation Bay. Is proposed to be used as mitigation for future phases of development associated with Plantation Bay. Preservation of the exchange parcel results in approximately 14.71 functional gain units. The functional loss associated with removal of the 25 parcels and some fragmentation was calculated to be approximately 8.11 functional gain units. The functional gain of the proposed exchange exceeds that of the partial release areas by approximately 6.59 functional gain units. It's important to note that if the partial release of conservation easement is approved by the governing board today, a separate ERP will be needed for the proposed redesign of this portion of Plantation Bay, and additional wetland mitigation will be needed for those developments and will be provided through the ERP permitting process. With that, staff recommends the board approve and authorize the executive director to execute the partial release request in exchange for substitute mitigation regarding Plantation Bay in Flagler County. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions? Yes. This comment.
Normally, I'm somewhat critical of releasing some of these conservation easements, but what I see here, this is the type of work that we need to do. Looks like we're getting an uplift in water quality and conservation value. We're taking a bunch of tiny little pieces and releasing those for a big contiguous chunk. This is the type of stuff that when we release them, this is the type of thing I think we should be doing. It's all in the same basin, all in the same area. I think this works very well, and it was great work on y'all's part making this come together, and I'm sure the developer's happy. So it's a win-win. I like to see it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is a good deal for the environment and for the taxpayers. Good work to all involved.
Definitely a team effort.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Well, any other questions? We have a motion to approve from Mr. Bornick. Is there a second?
Second.
Yes.
All right, we have a second from Ms. Price. Is there any further discussion on agenda item number 5? Before we vote, and I probably should have done this before a motion was made, but are there any public comments submitted? Okay, no public comments for the record have been, no requests for public comment have been submitted. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda item is approved unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, item 6. This is the beginning of the long and winding road that is known as an annual budget. Missy Lightcourt, you're recognized to discuss our preliminary budget.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and board members. I'm Missy Lycourt, Financial Services Director. Today, I will provide you with an overview of the status of the preliminary budget, including the development and assumptions. As we budget 12 months of the year, we are currently at the first step, the front end of next year's budget. Staff have been collaborating on developing the fiscal year 26 preliminary budget and 5-year CIP since the adoption of the fiscal year 25 budget in September. We did receive guidance and submission requirements from DEP. At the January board meeting, we will request your approval to submit the preliminary budget as required by statute on January 15th to our Governor, Senate President, Speaker of the House, and Secretary of DEP, as well as numerous legislative committees, the governing board of each county within our jurisdiction. Please keep in mind that the preliminary budget will be refined in response to governing board priorities and as additional guidance is received while we developed the tentative budget during the third quarter. The tentative budget will be further discussed and then presented to you at the July board meeting when we will request your approval to submit before the August 1st statutory deadline. We then have the opportunity to make final adjustments before we adopt the fiscal year 26 budget in September. Although you approve the budget for adoption, individual projects and activities will still be brought to you for your consideration per district policy. The draft preliminary budget is focused on the district's 4 core missions, using the strategic plan as a starting point with an emphasis on project delivery. We are continuing the district's implementation plans for the beneficial use of fund balances, as well as implementing cost efficiencies by streamlining processes and seeking a sustainable balance between recurring and non-recurring expenses. The draft fiscal year 26 preliminary budget cost efficiencies in operating expenses have resulted in $21.8 million of our operating income funding capital and cooperative projects. Based on guidance from DEP, state revenue placeholders include $3.1 million in new Land Acquisition Trust Fund for land management funding, $3.5 million in new Springs funding, and $25.5 million in new alternative water supply funding, as well as residual balances from prior appropriations. Overall, we are pleased with the way the draft preliminary budget is coming together. As we move through the budget cycle, we will continue to adjust our external funding based on guidance received, notice of funding awards, as well as the results of the legislative session. We will then provide you with an update. Thanks to the collaborative effort of our staff, we have developed a very realistic preliminary budget. The draft preliminary budget at $205 million is $386 million or 65.3% lower than the current budget as a result of staff efforts to make choices based on governing board priorities, aligned with the strategic plan, and not estimating non-recurring state revenues, as well as a reduction related to a large fiscal year 24-25 legislative appropriation. This plan includes $41.1 million in placeholders for recurring state revenues, as well as budget for fixed capital and continuing cost share projects. The update I have provided for you today is a preview of our draft preliminary budget as we assemble our 225 plus page document for your review. We will be requesting your approval to submit the document for the January 15th statutory deadline at the January governing board meeting. And that's the end of my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions or would like additional information.
All right. Any questions on this first step? Yes, you're recognized.
Yeah, just a comment. I'm excited about the future of the St. John's and Indian River Lagoon, particularly under the fixed capital outlay. I just hope all that comes to fruition because it's the biggest single thing we can do to protect the animals that live in the Indian River Lagoon. As per Dr. Dwayne DeFries and their reconnaissance, it's a huge step for the lagoon and a bigger, more important source of water for the upper basin. So I just can't wait for that to happen for the lagoon and the upper basin. Thank you.
All right. Any other, this is for informational purposes. Are there any other comments or discussion? Thank you. All right, we're going to move to item 7. This is Mr. Jenkins telling us about the latest on these two major regionally significant water resource projects that we have been funding and overseeing for years. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to each of you. I'm privileged to provide the monthly update for the construction status of Black Creek and Crane Creek water resource development projects. The two photos on this slide, on the left side is the treatment system for Black Creek. You can see in the foreground cell, there's 6 cells in the foreground cell, right? That's not working. Down in the bottom near the storage tank, it's getting filled with media. That's that black material that's in that cell right there. So that's being filled with the treatment media right now. On the right side, that's the main construction area for Crane Creek. That's where the weirs are going to be located. On the upper part of that, this is looking east. On the upper part, you can see the north section's completely done. The weir's actually in place, but it's submerged in the down position, and you can see on the right side, that's where all the construction is right now. That's the south side. Starting off with Crane Creek and continuing with the operable weir location, it's about 65% complete. Photograph in the upper right shows a lot of the major concrete work that's being done. There's still several big pours to go and a lot of earthwork yet, but that's expected to be completed late December, maybe early January. We got some great news last week. In the lower right photograph, you can see the south weirs. They were fabricated out west and they were delivered last week and they're in excellent shape. So all we have to do is wait for the south side to be completed and we'll put those weirs into place and this will be complete. Moving on to some of the items still under construction, the east pump station, there's good news there. The contractor is mobilized and sometime in the next couple of weeks we should have the pumps in place. And then the west pump station is about 30% complete. And then once the skimmer and trash rakes have been installed in the intake structure, the pump installation will start there also using the same contractor that we have at the east pump station right now. The stormwater discharge structure is basically complete. We're just still trying to coordinate with DOT to get the access driveway into that location. Moving on to Black Creek. The good news here is the intake and pump station, they're done, and even better news, the pipeline, it's pretty much going to be done this week, maybe next week. All 17.2 miles of pipe are in the ground. The contractor, the pipeline contractor, just needs to pressure test the last section of pipe from State Road 21 down along Treat Road into the treatment system. That's about 4,000 feet that needs to be pressure tested. They're going to do that this week. And then there's one more section of pipe that needs to be pressure tested. That's from the connection of the main pipeline into the treatment system to the ground storage tank. That should be done in the next week or two. So the pipeline's just about there. Treatment system construction right now, about 70% complete overall. That's on schedule. And we're basically, in this presentation to you today, we're starting to track the media percent that's being delivered. You can see right now with cell 1's about 40% filled. We would expect it to be filled by late January, hopefully. There's been some issues with the treatment process, and the contractors identified those. We have they are buying some new equipment that will expedite the process and increase the production rate. We would expect to see that late January, sometime into February. So we're still holding out hope that we can maybe start getting water through the system through cell number 1 once it's completely filled with media, rinsing that media and testing the water as it comes out before it goes into Alligator Creek. So we're slipping a little bit from what I reported to you last month, but the good news is the contractor does have a process engineer out there right now that is bringing in some new equipment that's going to get us moving a little bit quicker at processing media. And with that, that's pretty much what I have. I'd be happy to answer. Oh, and just one little thing, that middle picture on the right side, that's an air release valve enclosure. And if you travel down State Road 16 or 21, you'll see some of those. There's 22 total. And so that's just how they look. If you see them and you're wondering what the heck is that, that's to, in an emergency situation, if the pump station lost power, those release valves prevent a catastrophe to happen on the pipeline. It allows that air to release passively and to keep the pipeline intact. So that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions on this item is for information purposes? Any questions, comments?
Yeah, just one comment.
Yes.
Dale, will you tell them we don't like slippage?
I don't like slippage in schedule.
All right. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks. Item 8, Mr. Register is going to discuss our next planning basin strategic plan. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I also want to do a quick shout out to Dale. He's done a tremendous job mentioned about not liking slippage. He has been cracking the whip and working very hard to get these people on schedule, and that's why they're getting all this new equipment and getting it in place so that they can get back on schedule. So I appreciate all Dale's work and Bob Nailways and trying to get this project continued to move along. It's my privilege to be before you today to talk about our strategic planning basins and give you an update on those. A continuation from last month's presentations. This month will be the Middle St. Johns River Basin and the Indian River Lagoon Upper St. Johns River Basins. I want to shout out to Cammie Dewey, Mike McMonigal, and Melissa Dialosa. They are the basin coordinators for these areas, and they've been the one lifting the heavy loads behind the scenes to get us to where we are today. I won't spend a lot of time on these. You've seen these a number of times. This is just, the overall process of us developing our strategic planning basins and how we're going to operate that, the grinds of the machines that we're going through right now to get to that state of the resource so that we can implement this into our strategic planning process. Again, engagement with local governments and agency. Just like with the last one, we've done a ton of that with this, and we look to, after this meeting, to continue that engagement with community leaders and community members so that we get inputs from all areas of these basins. So for the Middle St. Johns River Basin, the regional priorities, and they probably won't be real surprising to you, but we want to improve the water quality of our lakes and rivers in the area. We want to protect our outstanding Florida springs. We have 7 of them located within this basin, and also enhance flood protection along our lakes and rivers. So the first one we'll start off with is improving water quality within the lakes and rivers, and we kind of know how we go about that with most of our projects, the diet and exercise routine. And so we're going to reduce those excess nutrient loads, continue to work on removing that load from them, but also work on the legacy nutrients that have built up in there over the years. We need to have projects and programs that we can work toward that too if we're going to get to where we need to be on that. And then also make sure we're protecting sustainable native ecosystems, submerged aquatic vegetation and the like. Some ongoing projects that we have within this area. We have the Lake Jessup Nutrient Reduction Project. It's just getting underway with design. That's one that's aimed at getting those legacy loads. We're going to try to get some of that out of the Lake Jessup, and then I believe the board should be very familiar with our Lake George gizzard shad harvest, which has been very successful at doing the same thing. Annalise, who was up here talking about the project earlier, is also the one that's been heading up this Lock Haven Chain of Lakes study, which we got an appropriation for. We're going to look at ways that we can improve the water quality and also the flood protection within those chains of lakes. Some upcoming projects and initiatives. DEP has provided funding for a feasibility study within this basin so that we can look for opportunities to address the issues that we laid down there earlier. And as a result of that, it'll produce projects that we can then further develop and look for funding for so that we can continue to move the needle in making progress with our goals for the area. We also want to continue and improve our submerged aquatic vegetation monitoring so that we have a better feel for the health of each of these systems, and we can better target and manage where we want to have some of these project improvements go in place. For protecting our outstanding Florida springs, where we want to focus on, each of them have an adopted minimum flow and level, and so we want to ensure compliance with those. We want to focus on reducing nitrogen loading of them. 5 of them are impaired for nitrogen according to DEP and have a BMAP, so we want to work toward improving them that way. And of course, the SAV is also very important to enhance that native SAV within these spring systems. So some ongoing projects we are doing, like we're doing throughout a lot of the basins, SAV monitoring. We've implemented a lot of cost share dollars to do septic to sewer programs around some of the springs to where they have the nitrate issues to improve that. We have our Taylor Creek Reservoir project, which is in the design phase now, that will provide as much as 50 million gallons a day of alternative water supply for that central Florida area to relieve some of our dependence upon the aquifer and hopefully provide some relief for some of these springs, while also meeting the water supply needs for the growing area. And then everybody here is ready to celebrate the abandoned artesian well plugging program. In this area with the geology, it's primary Seminole County where we get those types of projects. Upcoming projects and initiatives, we're really, in addition to the feasibility study that we were doing before, we're also with the Central Florida Water Initiative and the Central Springs East Coast. Both of those water supply planning areas are within this basin. We're going to continue to evaluate those projects that were identified within those basins and look toward implementing them to improve our water resiliency within those areas. For enhancing flood protection along the lakes and rivers, we're going to look at both the non-structural flood protection and also look for ways that we can, in this area where we don't really have a lot of it, look for ways that we can work with local governments, work with multiple partners to get regional structural flood protection projects developed and implemented. And as a part of that, in our ongoing projects, we have that Central Florida Coordination Work Group that we've talked about before, primarily with the hurricane, where we meet before and after to make sure everybody's on the same page. And we have those good communications and know who to call back and forth as we're dealing with those emergencies. But we're also using that same work group to identify, after we have these storms, where are the flooding areas? Where are these hot spots? What can we do to have potential projects that they can all come together and look to make those communities more resilient when it comes to improving the flood protection. We're also working on developing the upper and middle St. Johns River flood forecasting model, which will allow us to look forward into the future with expected rainfall and determine where that flooding might occur, and help us provide that information so local governments and ourselves can make better management decisions as we're dealing with these big storm events. One upcoming project that we have is the Lake George Conservation Area. This is an area that has been timbered and managed for quite a bit of time. Historical ditching has resulted in changes to the hydrology of the area. We're looking to go in there. We've done some modeling and looking for an area to where we can restore the hydrology, increase the amount of water that can be retained on site, and decrease the runoff, and therefore decreasing nutrients flowing into our water bodies. So, for the Middle St. Johns River Basin, the regional priorities that we have are these that are listed up there. And at this time, I can pause briefly to see if anybody has any comments or suggestions or wants us to include anything else.
All right. Certainly a critical part of the district. Any questions for our executive director at this point in time?
If not, I can move on to the Indian River Lagoon. The regional priorities for that basin that we've established, again, not a lot of surprises. We want to improve the water quality within the IRL, protect and enhance the seagrass, and also work toward coastal wetland restoration and resiliency. For improving water quality, we want to look at reducing the freshwater discharges and the nutrient inputs. That's why we're seeing these rediversion projects. We also have the feasibility study that we recently updated with projects So we'll be looking at those projects for implementation, looking at other opportunities to do muck dredging, and then also you'll see that we'll be gathering additional data and also doing additional data analysis so that we can better understand the systems themselves, how they respond to various improvements, and how we can better adaptively manage these systems. Ongoing projects that we have, the C10 water management area, that's one of those rediversion projects that's currently in design, very similar to the concept of the Crane Creek project that Dale just gave the update on that we're making such wonderful progress on. We also have the Fellsmere joint venture dispersed water storage project, which is doing the same thing, taking water that would have gone to the lagoon and keeping those nutrients out of it. We're also looking to improve our water quality modeling capabilities within the lagoon, which will allow us to evaluate, various projects and inputs to see and target where's the best place to get the best bang for our buck whenever we're doing these projects. And also, we're looking at mapping some of the dissolved oxygen within the area so that we can better understand how that affects the habitat. Some upcoming projects, as I mentioned before, we're going to look to implement some of the projects that are located within that feasibility update. We have the Groveland Reservoir and Stormwater Treatment Area that we're currently working toward getting the appraisals done as the first part of the purchase of that property for the eventual hopeful turning it into a big reservoir that can turn significant water that would have gone to the lagoon and make it available for environmental enhancement of the river. We also want to use all of the data that we're collecting with us and our multiple partners to make sure that we're working on developing climate adaptation strategies so that we can better manage these systems and also be able to address hotspots that are shown as a result of the data that we're collecting. For protecting and enhancing seagrass within the IRL, one, we want to look at we know the importance of the seagrass seed bank that's out there. We've seen a really big recovery in the Mosquito Lagoon. Knowing that it had that seed bank that was out there, we want to know how much is out there, how is it surviving, where is it located, and also understand about the seagrass genetics. So we know, what is it that's going to be better able to recover and what has those capabilities without maybe needing some push. And then also we want to understand better the relationship between seaweed that's growing out there and its interactions with seagrass and how that affects the recovery. So some ongoing investigations, again, gathering the more knowledge we have about the system, the better we can target things toward its recovery. So we have a lagoon bottom investigation where we're looking at the stuff that's in the cores of the sands and the samples beneath, what organisms are in there and how they interact with the environment so that we know what important part that they play. We're also working on the Brevard County Titusville Causeway Habitat Restoration Project, continuing our seagrass research and monitoring, and also, as I mentioned before, the seagrass research. Upcoming projects, we want to continue those research and monitoring. We want to continue the seaweed research, and we want to look for ways that we can collaborate with multiple governments, municipalities, organizations, IRL Council, all of them, to see how can we all pull together in the same direction to make sure we're all working on the correct restoration efforts. For coastal wetland restoration and resiliency, it's pretty simple there. We want to increase the critical wetland acquisition that we get, and then also look for areas that we can do additional coastal wetland restoration. And we have, as you can see, a number of projects here. I won't go through talking about each one of them, but we have a number of ongoing projects to restore these coastal wetlands. We've been very successful with past projects and are looking to continue those successes as we work with these, not only with us, but also with our partners. Upcoming projects, continue to look for ways that we can get the lands that we've put on that critical wetlands list. I think Sheila gave an update a board or two ago about how just having them on the list has really given them a highlight, a spotlight that when other organizations, when other counties are looking for things that they want to buy, with their land acquisition money. They've targeted that, and it's been very successful at that. So we want to continue that, to work for ways that we can check those off and add to it, so we continue those successes. The Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, wetland restoration. I think there's about 10 agencies or 10 groups that are involved in that, the district being one of them. So that's another one that we want to look to restore wetlands and their reconnection. So regional priorities for the Indian River Lagoon. Before I go on to the upper St. Johns River Basin, I provide an opportunity. I know I've been talking fast. If anybody wants to provide any input, and we have all our experts here too that can provide any answers to any questions.
All right, this is a good 50,000 foot view of what we're doing in each of these basins, so very much appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions about this big picture strategy approach?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
just Mike, I want to compliment your staff that sample the lagoon and work on that lagoon day in and day out. I've been out with them, and some of the days are bitter cold, and they're still in that water, even with a wetsuit. And I wear a wetsuit, being a surfer and a diver, and you still feel like you're naked out there with a wetsuit on. It's so bloody cold, and they're in there sampling away. And in the southern part of the lagoon, it's a nursery for bull sharks and things in the water, sawfish, stingrays, bull sharks. It's it's not that safe of an area to be in the water every day, all the time. And they are steadfast. They're brave. They are hardworking, and they have, in my life of working with them down there in the southern part of the lagoon, they are tremendous. And what a great asset for this district to have those on staff here. Just a compliment to you, Mike.
Thank you. I definitely echo those sentiments. They work hard, rain, shine, cold. Well, a lot of people think that it's a great job, and it is, to be able to go out in a boat and take samples and get in the water, but it's not always fun. It's not always easy, and they do it day in, day out, and it truly shows their dedication to the protection of the resource.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you. Just a comment. I'm really interested in your SAV work. And there are a lot of different projects, not just in Florida, but nationwide, where habitat restoration involves efforts to reestablish SAV that may have been lost over time. And I would just encourage staff, as you progress with this, to share lessons learned, so that you can contribute to efforts that go beyond just what goes on in the district, and maybe get some more value for all the good work that you're doing. And good luck with it, because it's not an easy thing to do. They can be fussy.
Definitely, and we are looking to share not only the knowledge that we have, but also, look to what other people have done in other areas. And so that's one of the values of going to some of these conferences and being able to, have these collegial discussions with other scientists that working on similar problems. And so, we're working hard to make sure that, we're taking advantage of all the knowledge that's out there, and trying to make sure that this recovery happens.
I think that interaction, I think the conferences, I think we all on the board encourage those things to happen. There's always these concerns that, people are going to go spend money on taxpayer money in hotel to go to a conference and all of this. Listen, that's the only way to gather these experts together is in that setting. You can't, there's only so much you can do by Zoom and all this. You need to have that in-person interaction to make it meaningful, particularly with the number of people that gather at these things. So please continue to do that, and know that obviously y'all have protocols and procedures in place to protect against abuse. It's not happening, and continue to do it. To Ms. Price's point, that collaboration is critical.
Appreciate that support.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Anyone? Yes. Ms. Winkler, you're recognized.
I just wanted to add one thing. I had the privilege of going to one of the locally held consortiums on the IRL, and I wanted to just applaud staff and the district. It looked like in every presentation given by other research institutions, they were all using our data as the foundation of their work. So just wanted to make that plug. I didn't realize myself until I attended the consortium meeting how much our data is used by others, but literally presentation after presentation, it was our data and our work that was used as the building block for what others were doing. So just wanted to let you know that the data is valued by our staff, but also many others.
Thank you for that perspective. I mean, the data drives everything that we do here, and it's garbage in, garbage out, like anything else. So we got to have good data, and we got to do it regularly and collect it, rain or shine, cold or heat, and we do that. If anything, I just like to keep investing even more in it because I don't think we can learn enough about what's going on, particularly with the dynamic state that we live in, with so many things happening and changing over time. We've got to watch these things very carefully to protect these valuable resources, to say the least. Incredibly valuable, part of who we are. All right. Anything else?
One more
Mr.
basin.
Yeah, sure.
Not many slides on this one, but one more basin.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. There was. Yes. Go ahead.
So for the Upper St. Johns River Basin, the regional priorities that we have for that, and I know Mr. Bernique's well aware, we've spent a tremendous amount of money, effort, time to do a lot of good work down in the Upper St. Johns River Basin. And so we want to not only ensure the sustainability of those projects that have been done to improve water quality, we also want to look for opportunities to expand and make them more effective and efficient. So we want to protect what we've done and also, kind of expand upon that and improve, and also continue our environmental restoration efforts within those areas. So to expand and ensure the sustainability, we want to complete the ongoing water quality projects and
take your time on this. I didn't say that because we were like in a hurry. I literally misread the agenda, and this is important stuff. So I didn't mean to imply that we're getting restless or anything. Go ahead.
Sounds good. So we want to complete the ongoing water quality projects that we have going on out there and investigate how we can do additional projects to further those same goals. We have the Upper Basin project that we're working closely with the Corps to try to close out finally, that may require some land acquisition or some trading of properties and property rights so that we can make sure that can be fully implemented with the schedule that's been approved. We also want to complete the DEP funded research on phosphorus management strategies from the application of biosolids. That goes into the protecting the sustainability of the projects that are out there. We want to make sure that we haven't done all of this work and then have activities occur that could put that in peril. And so we want to make sure, and DEP is doing a good job of funding the research, doing the work to make sure that we're going to be able to do these things in a responsible manner. And finally, I'll mention the Groveland Reservoir Project one more time. That has tremendous opportunities.
When is that research going to be done on this biosolids? Because
so we just got a draft report on one of them that we're working on. I'll turn to Eric for the schedule on the rest of the work.
I don't remember the exact time, but we probably another 2 years to finish all of it. We just finished one major phase of it with the University of Florida and Florida State. We're reviewing that report. We've got it up with DEP, and we plan to have conversations with them on that chunk that was just completed. The next phase, and that was working on examining how phosphorus comes off these pastures through the surface water and groundwater. The next work is looking at remediation potential on site, and that was contingent on this work we just completed, kind of understanding how it's moving before you look at how you might remediate that situation. So
when is this recently completed, phase going to be available?
We have the draft from the University of Florida, and we're having conversations with DEP. Actually, we're meeting with them Thursday.
Okay, great. I'm going to want to, at some point in time, put this on the agenda to discuss that first phase. What would be a recommendation about when would be a good time to do that? Would February work?
I think February
Let's
would
do
be a good
February.
time.
Just discussion of what is completed with regards to the biosolids issue. Because that's just a critical issue. We spend just millions of dollars on these projects, and then we turn around and do things that are banned in South Florida, in North Florida, and it's insane. That is our public policy posture on this matter. This is Rob Bradley's assessment of the matter.
Mr. Chairman,
Not an official statement of anyone.
Can I comment?
Yes.
This is an unofficial comment as well, Mr. Chairman. I fish a lot along the Indian River Lagoon when it's too rough to go offshore. So I fish the small little creeks and canals, and I have since I've been 12. And particularly in Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River County, I try to wedge my boat up into 18 inches of water and wait for a snook to go by. And those areas were pristine, clear water, and you could see the snook. This is in the 80s and 90s. And then in the late 90s, the golf courses along the banks of the lagoon started to accept gray water, and had to. They were forced to go there. And I quickly have seen, and I continue to see, because of phosphorus loadings, a tremendous decline in the fishery there and in the habitat there. I don't see crabs anymore. I don't see a lot of things. And this is immediately around those golf courses that I know myself are taking gray water and are forced, rain or shine. If it's been raining every day, they still got to take 500,000 gallons of gray water or more on their golf course. And that goes immediately off into the adjacent water bodies, which is the Indian River Lagoon. So for those of us that are in the highways and byways of the lagoon, we've got to, as a civilization, figure out what we do when you flush the toilet. The biosolids and the liquids that are produced need to be further treated in Dade and Broward counties and other counties that are transporting it elsewhere, because the technology does exist. They need to step up to the plate in those counties and do it on site, because they can. It's expensive to take the next step. On the Regional Planning Council I serve on, we've had these meetings trying to figure this out on a regional basis. But it comes down, in my mind, that those large plants in those large metropolitan areas need to take the next step there and not to transport their problem to somebody else. Just my humble opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah, and you mentioned reuse. That's another public policy of the state now, is that we're requiring all the utilities to rush to reuse and not do any discharges into the open seas. And I think we're now learning that gray water is not the magic bullet solution. It's an important part of things, right? You need to have that tool in your toolbox, but it's not the end all of everything. And these are billion-dollar questions, but they require a surgeon's approach, not a hammer approach. And anyway, that's why places like water management districts exist, by the way, in DEPs. But we you know, whether it be the biosolids issue and the putting the biosolid matter onto properties and then the things that result from that, or reuse systems, those are things that you know, we need to in 2024. We've come a long way. I mean, I say like it's not like people are ignoring these things. They're quite on top of it. It's just a matter of balancing a lot of different things. And I don't think that it's, I mean, the only thing that I just think is just insane is it's illegal in South Florida to dump it, and it's not illegal in North Florida. I mean, that's just insane. The rest of the stuff I get. It's complicated. You've got to look at different factors. There's a lot of things coming to the table, but there's nothing other than just raw politics that explains that, and there's no ecological basis for that public policy, the South versus the North. But anyway, I digress. It's like the fourth time I've gone off on that rant.
Okay.
And I'm still here, so obviously haven't pissed off the Pope, I guess.
The passion is appreciated.
It's important to be said.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, go ahead.
All right. To continue our environmental restoration efforts, we want to focus on invasive and nuisance species management. It continues to be an issue down within these areas. Again, try to hit our land acquisition and critical wetlands list, try to add to that portfolio. And then look at watershed management. You know, how can we keep the areas that need to be wet and make sure that they're not having issues with that. And then also, you know, make sure that we're doing adequate monitoring of all these systems so that we do have the knowledge to know what is being successful, where are there issues that still need to be addressed, so that we can focus our efforts in those areas where they need you know, a little additional work. Some ongoing projects that we have there. Speaking of the subsidence and the not being able to keep areas wet enough, we're doing an elevation survey in the Blue Cypress Marsh Conservation Area to get a better handle on how much area has subsided within there. Looking at what land management activities and water management activities can we do to improve that. Again, hitting our invasive plant management programs. Mapping our plant communities so that we have a better idea, you know, of what's there and what is the quality of it. Is it thriving or is it reducing? So that we know where we can plan on giving help to. And then also making sure that we know where all our endangered species are and how their habitat is doing, so that we can monitor their health. Some upcoming work. We're looking at some hydraulic restoration in the Blue Cypress Marsh. First, we're going to get the information about what is the updated elevations down there. Then in these areas, we're going to work not only on district lands, but look to our partners and our surrounding neighbors to see if there are things that we can do together that can help make our property better and better protected, while also you know, allowing them to continue to utilize their property without it adversely impacting it. See if there are things that we can do with our regulation schedules and the hydrologic management to accomplish both of those goals. And then also look, you know, for areas that will enable these things to occur through land acquisition. So that was real quick on the Upper St. Johns Basin. But these are kind of our focus areas: protect what we have and expand it and improve it, and then continue to restore our environmental areas within that district. And that concludes. If anybody has any further questions, I'd be happy to take them, or our staff would be happy to talk about them.
At the shuttle? What's that?
I believe that's one of the rockets going up.
Looks like the shuttle used to look.
Plenty of that down at Titusville.
So next steps from this, we'll be taking this information. We'll do some additional outreach to some of our community members and stakeholders, and then we will bring this back not only as the finalized basin plans, but also as a part of our strategic plan that y'all will see in the early next year to approve.
All right. Are there any questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Mr. Registrar. This basin approach is a much needed reform to make it a more effective organization. So, kudos. Item 20 is the firm reporting on litigation.
Public comment?
Well, let's do that
Okay.
first, then we'll do public comment. Go item 20.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I have updates on several pending matters, a couple of new matters as well. I'll start with the new matters. 2 new petitions have been received in the last month. Both of them are third-party challenges to environmental resource permits. The first is Brenda Rose as president of the St. Johns River Estates Homeowners Association versus Stephen Mahfood and the district. This is a challenge to authorization to pipe an existing ditch that's part of a stormwater management system in Volusia County. The second petition is Barbara Ash versus the city of Deltona and the district. Again, this is a third-party challenge to a modification of an ERP that authorizes a stormwater management system in Volusia County. Both of those petitions are under review, and if they meet the pleading requirements that are set forth in the Uniform Rules of Procedure by statute, then they will be referred to the Division of Administrative Hearings. A couple of updates on pending matters. The first is Bear Warriors United and others versus the Department of Transportation and the district. This is an appeal from a district final order entered in March after a challenge to an environmental resource permit issued to the department for a road project in Volusia County. The case is fully briefed at this point, but the appellate court has granted the petitioner's request for oral argument, so the court's in the process of scheduling that. I anticipate it will be sometime in the spring. The next is the Merriman case. This is pending in the district court for the Middle District of Florida, the federal district court. The Merrimans have filed a second amended complaint. Responses to that are due December 27th. The second amended complaint is very lengthy. There's a printed copy for each of you to review. We are still going through it, but the court on its own set a status conference for this this Thursday. So we will be listening into that to see potentially further briefing schedules. The next update is independent construction of the Treasure Coast and several other parties versus several other parties in the district. The reason for the summary there is that this was a foreclosure of a construction lien involving a small sliver of property that was encumbered by a district regulatory conservation easement. We got the matter dismissed on a statute of limitations basis, but the filer and the holder of the construction lien has filed a notice of appeal. So as that goes along, we don't know what the issues are yet until they file their initial brief. It will be due in January of next year. And that concludes my report.
All right. Any questions? All right. Now let's go to public comment, which is item 9 on the agenda.
Sure. The first public commenter is Joni Gonzalez, representing Lake Winnemucet Civic Association.
Great. Hi.
Can you all hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Again, I'm Joni Gonzalez. I live in DeLand, Florida on Lake Winnemucet. I'd like to start by sincerely thanking Mike Register and Brad Purcell for coming out to Lake Winnemesset in DeLand last month. We toured around the lake with my neighbor Jane Dowdy and County Chair Jeff Brower. We went around Lake Winnemesset looking at the new developments in the city of DeLand that butt up against our lake to see how these approved developments are affecting the lake. The overflow from these approved developments have a lot of storm runoff, and they're polluting the lake and causing water levels to rise. Currently, our lake's water level is anywhere from 10 to 25 feet below the levels of the new developments around us. Lake Winnemesset is a approximately 180-acre sandy bottom, spring-fed, clear lake. It's a rare thing in Florida today to have a beautiful, clean lake. It's been part of the University of Florida's Lake Watch program for the past 30 years. They do monthly water samples. We have a volunteer that sends in monthly water samples and does clarity checks. Winnemesset is ranked in the top 10% of the cleanest lakes in the state of Florida. We want to protect the health of the lake and its water levels for the future. We have over 2,000 homes that have been approved recently and are currently under construction. The deforestation and construction from these developments have caused more runoff, and it's noticeably affected the lake. The excess flooding, not only from Hurricane Milton, but also from these new approved developments surrounding our lake, are affecting us. I'd like to share a line from the City of DeLand attorney's response to an article that was written in our local newspaper, The Beacon. DeLand has opted for a higher standard recently, a 100-year storm, which retains approximately 11 inches of rain on site. Even a 1,000-year standard would only retain 18 inches, which is not sufficient to cover the amount of rain produced by Hurricane Milton, which was 20 plus inches in our area. Additionally, these standards do not address the fact that many of the properties impacted were not built to the current St. John's stormwater management standards. So this statement, many existing properties are not built to today's standards, raises several concerns. How could they be, first of all? Should new developments take into account the existing properties and the impact of the surrounding environment? His statement seems fundamentally wrong, and that's the way it feels like Volusia County is doing things these days, though. The city attorney also stated, it is incumbent on all of us to accept a new reality that these types of extreme rain events are becoming more prevalent, and we should try to adapt to that, with the caveat that hurricanes can always produce more rain and wind than our standards are able to handle. And I don't think we need to adapt to that. It seems clear that the standards need to change and more needs to be done to protect existing homes. Please, St. John's Water Management District, raise your standards, protect what is already here, and slow down the development. Thank you for your time and listening. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
The next public commenter is Christine Lewings, also representing Lake Winnemesset Civic Association. We drove up here today because we felt like you have more impact and clout than a lot of the other political organizations we deal with.
Glad you came.
Pardon me?
We're glad you came.
Oh, thank you. I'm here today to speak to you, hoping that St. John's Water Management, who has a lot of clout and can establish strong regulations, can help us out. As you know, we've been a victim of quite a bit of flooding over the past several years. I've been to county meetings and city meetings, and everyone wrings their hands and agrees there's a problem, but we don't really see much of any action. The current regulations are no longer adequate. I believe everyone admits that flooding and rain events will continue to worsen. The horse is out of the barn in terms of current developments and approved future projects. But if the quality of life is to be protected, we need your help. Can you establish stronger requirements for counties and cities to adhere to?
since they aren't regulating themselves? And can you help oversee current projects to make sure they are at least complying with their requirements? For example, there's a Coulter development on our lake of over 600 homes under construction. We are trying to be the watchdogs and have currently found them pumping muddy water, excuse me, directly into our lake. And there's a deed restrictions document, a conservation easement that is going to be turned over to our Lake Winnimisette Civic Association for enforcement. We have concerns about this because Coulter wants to redo swales, culverts, and ditches, which may worsen rather than improve water quality. We are not the experts, and we really need your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peggy Hill regarding Miller Lake.
Morning.
I'm Peggy Hill from Miller Road, which is in Volusia County, on Miller Lake, or we used to be across the road from what was called Miller Pond. Now we have Miller Lake in our front yard, and we're watching it destroy habitats. Water's still flowing into Miller Lake. This is coming across by way of a permit, and so this is a permit problem. It is not natural flow. It's coming from a St. John's water management permit that was issued in 2017, and the water continues to flow in. We're very thankful DeBerry has agreed to some pumping, and so while their water is flowing in, they are helping to flow some of it out. The water's going down very, very slowly, and they have made it very clear that they are not a solution to our problem. They're just helping us. And it is not a solution. The water is flowing in unbelievable amounts. Last week at a Volusia County District 1 flood meeting, Mr. Bartlett, the operations manager for Volusia County, stated that the draining into Miller Lake, which is caused by the permit, it's not natural, needs to stop. Flooding of homes on Miller Road and Shady Lane is not a solution to another area's problems. Please work with Volusia County and the city of Orange City and stop the draining into Miller Lake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. David Hill regarding Miller Lake.
Thank you for letting me talk to you and hearing what I have to say. I'll just follow up on what my wife said. I want to invite you all to come to Orange City and see the devastation of this 2017 permitted drain. You will be in disbelief, then you'll be angry, and then you'll ask yourself, how can this happen? You have to see it to understand it. Just, if you want to see the devastation, just Google Miller Road in Orange City. It's unbelievable what's happening to us. Nobody will do anything. You are our only hope. If you'll just come to my community, I will drop what I'm doing. I will show you where the water's coming from. I will show you the illegal draining that was attached to this permitted system, which within the permit requires it to be revoked, but nobody will do anything. We've had millions of dollars of adverse water impact, which in the permit says if that happens, it has to be modified. Nobody's doing anything. In the permit, it says it has to be monitoring. The only person monitoring this drain is me. It's putting in 200 gallons of water a minute, 2 million gallons of water in my lake a week. It's unbelievable. I've found one unpermitted source that was shut down. I believe I've found 2 additional sources that are hooked to this exfiltration system. This property that got this permit has an exfiltration system for their parking lot that's adjacent to a lake and below the water level of the lake. From the moment it was put in, it's a pipeline for hundreds of acres of groundwater. The permit is for surface water. We haven't had rain in 8 weeks, but 2 million gallons a week is still flowing into our lake. If you all don't help us stop this, my 52 homes, a beautiful lake community is going to be destroyed. So I want to ask you, I'm a nice guy. Come to Orange City. Let me show you what's happening. Let me show you where it's coming from and help us stop this. There's a solution. It's an easy solution. The devastation, this commercial property that got this permit has been flooded at least 10 times in my lifetime. It was just flooded. You build in a lake basin in the water, you're going to flood. So why put that devastation on my community? Please come to Orange City and let me show you this. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that completes the public comments. We're going to move to item 21, and that is governing board comments. I'll first start. Is there anybody that's attending telephonically that wishes to comment?
Nothing from me. Thank you, Rob.
Nothing for me, Chairman Bradley. This house.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Here at the dais, anybody have any comments? I'll start with Ms. Price.
No, I don't have any.
Oh, I thought you said, I apologize. Mr. Bernique. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank one of the voices in the sky, that's from Cocoa Beach, for their Christmas cheer. You're not here today, but thank you for the cheer, Mr. Fellow Board Member.
I second that. Thank you. Are there any?
Yay.
Go ahead, Ron.
I just said yay.
Second that also. Merry Christmas. All right. Are there any? Okay. We're going to do item 22 then, and that is the Executive Director's report and calendar. You're recognized.
Thank you. If I could get the first slide. We recently hosted the 10th annual Upper St. Johns River Basin Research and Management Consortium, talking about getting together and sharing information and sharing ideas. This is a prime example of our efforts to do that. The event is designed to bring together experts and stakeholders to share updates, research findings, management strategies, all related to the Upper St. Johns River Basin, with the goal to enhance collaboration and communication among agencies, researchers, and the community. I'd like to thank and recognize Kim Ponzio for establishing this event 10 years ago and her dedication to ensuring its continued success each year, with support from several other staff members. Kim's pictured there on the right, doing some mapping of vegetation in the upper basin with Allie Simpson. Next slide. It's Christmas time, so it's time to count birds again. The Christmas bird count is happening from December 14th to January 5th. This event includes several district properties, including Lake Apopka North Shore, Emeralda Marsh Conservation Area, and Sunny Hill Restoration Area. Established in 1900, this is part of the world's longest running community science project, offering a real-time snapshot of bird populations across North America. Over the decades, this effort has contributed critical data for monitoring and protecting bird species.
All right, let's keep that slide on. Can anyone identify that bird? I cannot. Eric. It's an invasive species. Go. I don't know if that anybody could you put that in the.
But isn't it pretty?
It's gorgeous. It's an invasive species called a swamp hen. The taxonomy's changed, the name's changed a little bit, but it's called a swamp hen.
Where does it come from?
That I don't recall.
There's other names
Mr.
for
Chairman,
it.
he just said it's from invasive.
They're invasive.
Yeah, good point.
Captive colony in South Florida and have been moving north.
Yeah, that's there's other names for it in South Florida. So,
All right. So just your reminder during the Christmas bird count to don't bring, I mean, invasive species, whether they be fowl, plant, or animal, or and there's a reason why we have customs when we travel around the world, and this is exhibit 5 million of that exercise that we have as a country, and other countries have as well. All right,
Calendar.
go ahead.
Right now, our scheduled holidays are Christmas Day, December 25th, and New Year's Day, January 1st. Our next board meeting is here at district headquarters on 1/14/25.
Okay. Yes, you're recognized, General.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, how do we get Mike to let our people go home at noon on Christmas Eve? I know that's a reach.
Are we open on Christmas Eve?
Right now, we are open on Christmas.
All right. Well, is there any particular public safety concern that would have us closing at noon on Christmas Eve?
No, there's not.
All right. Well, could Mr. Register, it's your call, but I agree with the general. If we could be done at noon on Christmas Eve, that would be great. Does everybody, by acclamation, think that's a good idea?
Agreed.
How does that sound, Mr. Register?
Sounds wonderful.
That's right. I don't know if the mic picked that up, but that includes you, sir.
Got it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Leadership is doing that. We manage inventories, but we lead people.
Amen. All right. Well, we're here to the end of the year, another wonderful year, a lot to be thankful for. In 2024, I am thankful for the people here that work on our behalf and have brought a lot of meaning and joy to my life. So thank you all. And thanks to my fellow board members for all the work that you do. I really, really appreciate it. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to all. And with that, seeing no objection, this meeting is adjourned.
And thank you for your heavy lifting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Augustine, what?
You think we can talk to old Tom Holman about that bird?